You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Ever since we started the Minor League Baseball podcast, the show before the show, the Tyler Mon, Sam Dykstra edition, I've done like nothing but travel, and it's been awesome. And now I'm sitting
and now
next
you're
to you.
here. I
now
know.
I'm here.
New York.
Just smack you on the back.
It's Grand
while we're doing the
Junction,
podcast.
Albuquerque, New York. You know, I don't think anything puts those together except for you.
I was going to say,
So,
they're going to sell T-shirts. Grand Junction, Albuquerque, New York.
I want to make this a New York Times trend piece, and I can't do it. But maybe that's why I work for us and not New York Times. So here we are.
What's going on, man?
Not much. It's good to see you live.
It's good to see you
in the flesh. And we can do this. Hopefully people can tell we're in the same
room.
They
can,
together
I would
now.
imagine. It sounds great. We did a little test a moment ago, and it sounds terrific. So when you're listening to this right now, people, I know that you're thinking, man, this sounds great. I had a very New York day today. I fell in Times Square.
Okay, there
in
you
front
go.
Of people. You know, like when you're.
Was it your selfie stick? If it was your selfie stick, then
it was like,
we have
I was doing duck face kissy pictures. No, like, you know, where like you don't trip over anything, just like your body just ceases to function like a normal person.
Yes, for that
like
split second in the middle of the road.
For no reason whatsoever, just fell. And not like full on face plant, but like dropped to a knee, and then like you get up, and it was literally in Times Square. It's not like I was so close to Times Square. I was in the middle of Times Square going to meet my sister who works at the Viacom building, and you can't hide from that. Well, like you can't just like get up and be like, oh, nobody saw it at least.
That's the good thing about New York, though, is that there's so many people that
true.
you can hide.
That's true.
That
is
just
probably
all
true.
anonymous
Nobody
faces
noticed.
that you will not ever see again. So you can just kind of like tip your cap and say you have a good
Yep.
day, and this was a bigger memory for you than it was for me, and move on with your life.
And then I caught the train down here. I was reading something on my phone, missed my stop, went 2 stops too far.
There you go. That's a real New York experience.
It was a very New York day I had here, but I made it, you know, and I'm here. And
there
it's
you go.
exciting.
So when's the pizza? That's the real question.
That is the first. So I had last night. What did I get for dinner last night? An Italian. It was an Italian place, no pizza. Went with like a salad and a ciabatta.
Okay.
Like a sandwich. But I got to go with a pizza. It might be tonight. Might be tonight.
It
might
has
be
to
tomorrow.
be at some point.
I'm going to the Staten Island
tomorrow.
Yankees game tomorrow.
There you go. Get real Staten Island.
I can do some.
They,
Yeah, I
they
can do
it
some
well
Staten
out there.
Island.
I'll
Okay.
give them that.
All right. Good. Good to know. So welcome in. It's a big day today, September 1st. When we are recording, you will get this on September 3rd. But today, whole lot of news. Guys headed up to the big leagues with rosters expanding today. Sam, give us the latest who set it up. A lot of top 30 guys. There are some names that are, I think, surprises going up. There are a lot of names that are surprises who haven't gone up and who may not go up. But give us the breakdown so far.
Yeah, so the big one for me so far, the top 100 guy, Dalton Pompey. It's good to see him get his chance again. You know, he started the year with the Blue Jays, was their starting center fielder on opening day. You know, was the big guy coming in, climbed 3 levels last year. Did not have a good first month. They sent him back to AAA Buffalo. Then he got bumped down, to AA New Hampshire. It was kind of like a U shape that he's gone on here. And once he hit New Hampshire, he's rocketed back up. Has hit 307 in the minors this year. He's going to be back with the Blue Jays. They've already officially called him up today, so that's not speculation. That's actually happening. We were talking before out. He was tweeting about how it's Christmas Day. He seems really
Christmas
excited for him. Yeah, so he's coming up to a good team. The Blue Jays, obviously a hot team, one of the more interesting teams coming into September. He's not going to take the center field spot away from Kevin Pillar quite yet, but he's still a very talented guy off the bench. Can certainly help defensively. Not that Pillar needs help defensively, but anywhere in the outfield he'd be able to help them. Brings a good bat now that he's returned to form after that trip to New Hampshire. So he's the real big top 100 guy. There's another guy in Javier Baez, and a guy we've talked about before, former top 100 guy, had his strikeout problems last year in the minors. We all know he has lots and lots of power for a middle infielder. Cubs are a little packed there right now, but they could certainly use his bat. They'll certainly take it. At the time of him getting called up today, he's batting .444 during a 16-game hitting streak. I mean, they could not get him at a better time. I know Joe Madden had said that we could definitely use him. There's not a way that we're going to deny him getting his chance. So those are the two guys really that stand out to me that have been called up so far. A couple names that will come down the road. Joey Gallo is expected to come up.
Right.
Has certainly had his struggles at AAA Round Rock after getting moved down after the Rangers, but or from the Rangers, but the Rangers will certainly use his bat off the bench at either third, to give Adrian Beltre a spell here and there, or certainly as a big power bat. Anybody would like him to come up down 2 runs with 2 runners on in the 9th inning,
especially with the way they've been able to put themselves in the race now too.
Exactly. He's actually going to have a role on a team that's contending for a playoff spot. So more to come, but those are some of the guys we're kind of excited about for me. One other guy quickly to just kind of touch on. I'm glad he's getting his chance is Frankie Montas.
Yeah,
he was called up for that double header, and I can just picture him as like a little kid in kindergarten, just sitting there, very excited, like waiting to be called upon by the teacher, like please let me play, please let me play.
He's got his backpack.
Yeah,
on.
Just so excited. Probably, he was a rookie. They
Yeah,
probably had to bring out the.
He's wearing a Dora the Explorer backpack.
Exactly. And he didn't get his chance, so he's officially been called up, but he doesn't have a Major League Baseball reference page, so let him get that inning or a couple innings this time around. Let him get his chance. Those are the guys I'm excited for.
I think you hit the most intriguing names on the head. Manny Banuelos is another guy, left-hander, who's calling up from the Atlanta Braves organization. Missed August, had a bone spur in his left elbow, and the Braves are in one of those transitional phases right now where I think they're getting looks at a lot of guys to see who is going to be part of that next chapter in Atlanta. They've acquired a ton of talent. The interesting thing will be to see who figures into that next era for them. And so that's going to be – it'll be an interesting month for that organization because you don't ever expect the Braves to be down for long. And I think these last couple of seasons have been so off compared to what we've seen from the Braves for 30 years that that'll be fun to watch. And the other one, another big power arm, Miguel Castro is headed up to the Colorado Rockies. He was one of the big trade pieces in the Troy Tulowitzki deal. Pitched at AAA Albuquerque, flashed some brilliant stuff at times. Also struggled at times with arms. A power arm, struggled with his command at times. But obviously, that trade will just be determined based on what he does, like his first inning in the big leagues. That's how trades are won or lost, I assume.
Yeah,
so I think that's how it goes.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. What do you do now? And then we determine winners and losers as fast as we can.
So those are some of the guys. But there are just as many guys as we move into strike 2 who are not getting the call as of yet. One of the guys who really stuck out, who especially I think is interesting because in the way that his team has struggled keeping guys healthy in the area in which they can help them, is Corey Seager. Corey Seager's not headed up to the Los Angeles Dodgers right now.
No, they have not. They're not going to call him up immediately. There's a lot of speculation. He's the top prospect currently in the minors. The top prospect overall is obviously Byron Buxton, who was with the Twins, was up there before they made the roster expansions here in September. But Seager's just got the biggest name right now going in the minors, and that just when he's one step away like he is at Oklahoma City, that leads to a lot of speculation. When can it happen? When will he be brought up? When I wrote Toolshed last week, I put him firmly in the maybe category. He does have an exciting bat. The Dodgers, as I was saying before with Gallo and the Rangers, anybody would like to see his bat in the majors. He's certainly capable of playing there right now. The Dodgers have kind of an influx infield right now. They've got Jimmy Rollins, who's an aging veteran. He has that veteran presence, but isn't having the best year. You could certainly make an argument that Seager is going to be an improvement if he's playing every day over Rollins. Trying to tell a veteran in his mid-30s that he's going to be sitting for a rookie, you can have that discussion if you want. I might shy away from that, but so right now the Dodgers aren't officially calling him up immediately on September 1st. We're going to kind of see where that goes and whether they decide to bring him up. He is not on the 40-man roster right now, so they would have to make a couple other moves to allow him to come up. But they did that last year with Jock Peterson, so we'll see where that goes.
There's a couple guys who I think will be, whenever they get the call, whether it's September or 2016, are going to be fascinating to follow. One of them is Mark Capel, who's in the Houston Astros organization at AAA with the Fresno Grizzlies and has had really good stretches. He's had some head-scratcher stretches throughout this season as well. And what we saw from Mark Capel last year, what he did in the Arizona Fall League, he's been very Jekyll and Hyde throughout his minor league career. But I think he still presents himself as a mid-rotation guy. In the Astros, I mean, they're one of those teams right now. Do you just bring up every enforcement possible to try to keep your distance at the top of the division, to try to make yourselves into a team that'll be hosting a playoff series and have all the benefits that comes along with winning the AL West? So is Mark Capella a guy who gets a look, and another guy who I think his team isn't going to the playoffs this year, but Blake Snell. And as you noted in the tool shed, if anybody has earned a look at the major league level this year, it's Blake Snell. Blake Snell, I think, was like at the start of the season, he was like in diapers, and now he's dominating in AAA, and he's so fun to watch, and he's so fun for us to talk to. Like I said, a team that's not headed to the postseason this year, but they have a big piece of the puzzle going forward in Blake Snell. Do they give him a chance to at least show what he can do toward the end of this year and take a flyer on that, with the promise of 2016 coming up, in 8 months or so?
Right, and one of the things with him right now, I remember talking to him a couple weeks ago, and he's at AAA Durham right now, and they're limiting his innings. They're only allowing him to go 5. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't bring him up and limit his innings in the majors. Whether he can sink or swim at that level too. The way he's shown at every level so far, he gives up a run, and it's kind of disappointing. I think
it's such a bummer when you see Blake Snell's giving up a run. You're like, oh man.
I think Durham tweeted the other day he gave him a run in the first inning, and they just tweeted gasp, and that's all it said. And it was just like, yeah, no, that's right. That's how we reacted in the Milb office when we saw the box score come up. That's just the way he's going. So, maybe they allow him to sink or swim. That's the fun time of the year with this right now is. I think his stuff would certainly play. It's just whether they want to give him those extra innings in the majors or not.
The thing I love most about Blake Snell, by the way, Sam, is that he looks like he was just woken up from a nap in every headshot that he's ever taken for MILB.com. I love that about Blake Snell because he's so relaxed. Every time I talk to him, he's the most even-keeled dude. He has no worries in the world and just goes out and dominates. But it always looks like somebody just woke him up from a nap and they were like, we got to take your headshot, Blake.
Well, that's the thing. We mean that in the best way possible.
The best way possible.
Yeah, you look completely relaxed, Blake. We're not judging your version of Blue Steel or anything like that.
Love it.
But
love that.
We all wish we could look that relaxed and not as uptight when we take our non-existent headshots.
Our non-existent MILB.com. We should have MILB.com headshots. Why don't we have we should have a writer's
We should have our own player page. I don't know if we want to see our stats.
I want to go with the I'll go with the John Singleton look. Just as angry as humanly possible. Yeah. Strike 3 this week, Sam, a promotion not to the major leagues, but Julio Urias, who is a prospect unlike most other prospects in baseball. He's a pay-to-watch type of guy. Urias, who is still just 19 years old and could conceivably crack the major leagues as a teenager. Probably won't happen until next year if it does happen, but his birthday isn't until August 12th. The amount of talent that kid has and what he's been able to do at every level up until this point in his minor league career has been unreal. But it looks like right now the Dodgers are going to let him continue his track with AAA Oklahoma City. He was promoted there yesterday. And similarly to Snell, you kind of gasped when you saw his line because it was not very Julio from what we've seen from him this year.
Right, and that's I think he got his first 2 outs and then had some real struggles there, especially finding the strike zone. He walked 4. He did strike out 2, which is the typical Urias outing. A lot of guys just can't face his stuff. His stuff is just too good, especially, and then you find out he's 19, I think, right now, like you said, and I can only imagine what those AAA guys those 2 guys who struck out did when they got back to the dugout and found out what this guy's only 19,
exactly.
And then you think about when I was 19, yada yada yada. So it's the same way I was saying with Seager. Dodgers are a big market, and they have 2 of the top 4 prospects in baseball. And when you see the guys doing well at these levels, and with Urias, he took a couple months off to have cosmetic eye surgery. Wasn't necessary, but it's something he wanted to do, and the Dodgers supported him for it because it allowed them to limit his innings for a reason, get him a blow for a couple months. Right now he's only thrown 77 innings in the minors, which leads people to think maybe they get him called up to the majors, get him that shot. Get him those extra innings for, in a big situation, get him that taste, that cup of coffee. And Don Mattingly's had a couple comments lately that kind of took me back because a lot of these guys like to downplay calling up a guy until they're actually there and they're forced to talk about him. But Mattingly was very open in saying, sometimes it's good to get these guys tastes of, major league action. And that was when he was talking about Urias. Yesterday's start isn't exactly, we don't want to look too much into it. It's just one inning. It was a bad inning, but it was just one inning. So you don't want to say he can't even handle AAA yet. Why call him up? Just kind of put it aside. Hopefully he gets one more start for Oklahoma City. And once their season comes to an end, maybe the Dodgers will have a decision on their hands.
He is such a cool kid to watch, and he'll be on MILB TV. You can follow him for the rest of the season with Oklahoma City, as he was with Tulsa. You can check out his starts as he rounds out the 2015 season, whether it is at the minor league level or in the unlikely event he somehow makes up to the major league level. You can follow him there. Right now, the number 4 ranked prospect in all of baseball, and the Dodgers' top prospect behind Corey Seager, who also has not headed up to the major leagues as of yet, but that one could change a little bit more easily. So that wraps up 3 strikes for this week as we send it on toward the minor league postseason here coming up shortly. We'll talk about the postseason. The Arizona Fall League rosters were released for that today. The showcase circuit, that'll be starting up in October. We'll talk about that here in just a little while. But coming up next, Benjamin Hill on his final road trip of the 2015 season. We will catch up with Ben from a parking lot somewhere in New England. That's coming up next. Counting down the days toward the end of the 2015 minor league regular season, which means we're wrapping up Benjamin Hill's road trips across the great world of MILB. And Ben welcomes us, we welcome Ben in from the parking lot of McCoy Stadium. I think it's going to be a goal to just get you from as many parking lots as we can over the course of the show. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm in a parking lot, and this is a nice parking lot. I'm looking straight at McCoy Stadium, and I can see a whole lot of championship banners. Did you know that they won the Governor's Cup in 1973, 1977, 1984, 1991, 1994, 1996, 2003, and 2011? So I'm here at McCoy Stadium, a place with a lot of history.
I didn't know that, but more importantly, are there any Tennessean ice companies that you can ink a deal with this time?
No, there are not, but I have not yet heard from Miners Ice down there outside of Nashville after I gave them a good plug last month. But
for some reason,
still waiting.
Whatever, they're not tuned into the minor league podcast. Come on, Miners Ice Company.
Yeah, you'd think they would just be Googling themselves and finding themselves on this podcast over and over, but we're still waiting if they're out there.
Yeah, they're leaving me cold.
Send your emails.
Oh, there you go.
There it is. There's a good Ben Hill wordplay. Well, welcome, Ben, from the Northeastern, the New England swing. This road trip is your last one of the season, but you've already hit a lot of good storylines, and let's start with one that seemed kind of script written almost. The New Britain Rockcats' final home game in franchise history in New Britain. They're going to move to Hartford next year, where they will become the Yard Goats at Dunkin' Donuts Park. And I mean, obviously, a whole lot of excitement that goes into that move and the new stadium, the new logo, the new uniforms, the new name. But the Rockcats leaving behind a lengthy legacy in New Britain, and a really cool day for them to celebrate that in their final game in franchise history at home last week that you got to catch in person.
Yeah, that was definitely my, I think, biggest highlight, biggest moment of this road trip so far. Sunday afternoon, August 30th, the Rockcats closed out the Britain era of minor league baseball. And, they took their time doing it. It was a 15-inning game against the Portland Sea Dogs. And, yes, you look back on it, like, how awesome. The last game at New Britain Stadium ever, they win extra innings, and they came out on top on a walk-off home run in the 15th inning. That is a great story. But also, you think about the reality of a 15-inning game. A lot of people wanted that game to end, even the hardcore fans who were having trouble saying goodbye, because it was a lot of squandered scoring opportunities, things getting more and more absurd and surreal. And then finally, when that home run was hit, it was like, all right, we can go home on a high note, and this is it. Goodbye, New Britain baseball.
And one of the cooler things I kind of saw from that game that you were at, you shared, I think it was a Vine or a small video of, just the team or the fans there in New Britain singing the 7th inning stretch, doing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" one last time. And anybody who looks at a map of Connecticut is going to say, New Britain, Hartford, they're the same market, very close. But obviously this meant something to those fans who are there, who grew up with the Rockcats, have seen them there for so long. What was the kind of sense in the stadium, before it did drag on, of how much, fans there are going to kind of miss that team in that location?
Well, I think you find a very mixed sense. You talk to some people who are like, hey, this is great, but we're so excited for baseball in Hartford and downtown and a 360-degree concourse and all the bells and whistles of truly modern minor league baseball. But you get a lot of people on the other end who, those 11 miles are a lot of miles when you're talking about, Connecticut traffic. And you do talk to a lot of people who are convenient to New Britain, but not so much, to Hartford, and, who don't like the Yard Goats name and who don't like that it's Dunkin' Donuts Park. And I understand and respect that. And of course, I looked around and tried to talk to some of those people. I met this guy named Al Nelson, who's 88 years old and still rides his bike to the ballpark from his home 2 miles away at an everyday game. And he was basically like the mayor of the stadium. He has a first row bleacher seat down the third baseline. And I basically had to wait in line to interview him because pretty much everyone who walked by was shaking his hand, talking to him, taking his picture. And he's the kind of guy who's like, no, I'm 88 years old. I live close to here. I'm not going to Hartford. I don't like it there. There's traffic. I don't want to be there at 10 o'clock at night. So, he's maybe one of the more extreme examples, but I think he's also a fairly relevant example of how those 11 miles and the change in the team's culture will alienate some fans forever. Also, it will add a whole lot of new fans to a new market. It's, that's the balance and that's the risk you're taking. But definitely something will be lost by not being in New Britain because that's a minor league baseball market and culture that specifically is not going to have minor league baseball anymore.
Ben, we heard so much, as we do every year with every rebrand, with every new logo and team name in the minors. The Yard Goats name was announced. People called it a laughingstock. They said it was a joke and it was an embarrassment, yada, yada, everything that we hear every year. But even just over the last couple of weeks, I think there was a column in the Hartford Courant of a writer who said, I already will admit that I was wrong about the Yard Goats. I love the name now. It seems fun. It seems like there's a lot of excitement that is going into what the fan base will become next year. But from your perspective, from your vantage point as a guy who covers that a lot, does it seem like the tide has already turned on the name and the logo and everything that was such an uproar for so long initially after it was announced? Does it seem like we've already seen that swing through to where it's now a positive thing and it's an exciting thing for fans in Connecticut going toward 2016?
I think that's the typical dynamic, and it's a slowly moving pendulum from one side to the other, and that's generally what happens. You first hear about the name, you have no context, you haven't seen the logo, you might not be aware of minor league baseball as it exists and has been successful in other markets, and it's an outrage and it's an embarrassment, and I get that, and that's what we saw in Hartford, and probably we saw it a little more in Hartford because even by 21st century minor league baseball standards, Yard Goats is a pretty ridiculous name. But my prediction is opening day 2016, you're not going to find too many people who are grumbling about the Yard Goats name. And even furthermore, once they see how Yard Goats is incorporated in the overall stadium experience and the railroad history and goats themselves and minor league baseball, probably like this market has really never seen it, I bet they'll not just come to accept the Yard Goats name, but to love it. We're seeing that already, but I think by the end of the season, that's really going to be the story. And I'm saying that because we've seen it in so many places. Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs and the Akron Rubber Ducks and the El Paso Chihuahuas and the Richmond Flying Squirrels. It's just a story that almost always plays out.
And kind of speaking about, controversial decisions, things that are happening in the New England area and kind of where you are right now in Pawtucket, right before, we started this, you said you had just talked to a member of the new ownership group in Pawtucket, and obviously the big story there is a potential move away from McCoy Stadium, looking at spots in Providence and trying to update their whole stadium situation after, so many years, so much history as you talked before at McCoy. What's kind of the state of the Paw Sox, and what did you guys kind of talk about in your discussion today?
Yeah, well, just talking about New Britain moving to Hartford, this is a very similar situation playing out here, and that geographically, this proposed move from Pawtucket to Providence is not much at all, but it is stirring up a lot of controversy, both because of people's sentimental and understandably so attachment to McCoy Stadium, which is one of the oldest ballparks in minor league baseball, the oldest in the International League, and then the economics that are involved of how much public money can or should be used in what is also essentially a private business and that dance and that negotiation. So I did just talk to Jeff White, a member of the ownership group. He's been with the Boston Red Sox in some capacity or another for, I believe, now better part of 2 decades, or at least 15 years. And he talked. He's based in Boston, but he comes to Pawtucket once a week and has an office at the ballpark. And we talked for quite a long time about what their pitch is, what their vision is, why this is beneficial, and a lot of it is what a good market Providence is, how much it can bring to the community, how do you perceive that value, how do you measure that value, and they're trying to make the case that when all said and done, this will be better, for, of course, not just themselves as an ownership group, but for Providence and the state of Rhode Island. So a lot left to play out in terms of the financing and the land and a lot of specifics, but that's the vision that they're putting forward. And, we might see that as early as 2018, or I guess conceivably as late as never, if the right pieces don't fall into place.
Ben, can you recall at all a minor league story like this with a team that is, has this much history, has this much really just notoriety throughout the minor league world with everything that the Paw Sox have done? I mean, not just from being a successful affiliate, but the radio voices that they've churned out and the stuff they've done in the community. I mean, they're really kind of one of the hallmark cornerstone franchises of minor league baseball. Can you recall another team or another market that's really gone through something like this with a team that's been around for so long? I know Richmond had AAA baseball forever, and that turned into a tough situation with the Braves moving to Gwinnett, but they got a very successful AA team that followed and had moved a long ways away, so they were able to get another team. But with Pawtucket and Providence and the proximity there, is this relatable to anything that you've seen? I mean, maybe save New Britain and Hartford. Do you know of any situations that have been similar to this with a team that's it has as much going for it in its history as the Paw Sox do?
No, on that level, no, and I think that's one of the reasons this has been so controversial. Is the stadium was built some 80 years ago, and so it's a generational thing, and a lot of championships have been won here. The longest professional game in history was played here, the 33 inning game. The proximity to Boston, and therefore a much higher level of baseball fan at this stadium, as opposed to the more 21st century model of there's also a game, but there's so much other entertainment going on. This is known as a place for purists in a market with a very high proportion of baseball purists. So I think that's why it's so upsetting to a lot of people, because once this place is gone, yes, there might be minor league baseball, within 10 or 15 miles, but will it be this atmosphere? Will it have this history? And no, of course, it won't, and that concerns a lot of people. But it is true, and this is one thing in the interview I just did with Jeff White, the member of the ownership group, is that attendance here has been going down for the better part of the last decade, well before rumors of relocation hit, and that maybe even in a market like Pawtucket, as much as we want to romanticize it, maybe it is not in an older ballpark in a town like Pawtucket with not much else to do in the surrounding area. It's very residential. Maybe this is not a sustainable model long term. I know a lot of people in Pawtucket would hear me say that or hear other people say that and say that's ridiculous, because there is so much history here. There is so much passion here. And I understand why it has been such a controversy.
Yeah. And, just to kind of wrap up here, we touched obviously on New Britain and Pawtucket. You also went to Connecticut and Lowell, but what else are you kind of looking forward to on this trip? I know you have trips to New Hampshire and Portland, Maine coming up. What is the highlight, the next thing you're looking for?
Yeah, well, at this point, I'm halfway done the trip. I've had 3 games under my belt, and then the Paw Sox tonight, and then New Hampshire tomorrow, and then Portland Sea Dogs on Friday. And there's not one thing at this point that I'm looking forward to. There's no big, like last game in franchise history like in New Britain. To me, it's just like the point of all these road trips is just see a place for the first time, try to convey that experience, and take it in. I've never been to the New Hampshire Fisher Cats before, so looking forward to that tomorrow, and then closing out the season, in Portland, Maine, and the Sea Dogs, and kind of like Pawtucket, Portland, part of Red Sox Nation, very New England. I'm sure there'll be a very good baseball culture there as well, and I'm looking forward to experiencing that.
Well, just one word of warning. Everybody in New England kind of jokes once you cross into New Hampshire this time of year, your political leanings kind of matter 100 times more with the primary coming up. So I think once you cross the border into New Hampshire, along with cheaper taxes and all that. Just look out for pollsters. Just a quick warning. They're going to try to get you to say how you're going to vote in 2016. So just a heads up, they might be waiting at the border there.
All right, hey, I'm all for talking to pollsters. Usually people don't care about my opinion. If they want to know about where I fall politically, I'm more than happy to share it. And I want the candidate that wants what's best for minor league baseball.
That's a big thing. And speaking of that, the New Hampshire primaries, originally the name for the Fisher Cats, which is one of the coolest minor league stories and one of the best and somewhat lost minor league logos ever. If you don't know that story, go Google it because it's an awesome story. They came out with this name. They had a donkey and an elephant kind of looking warily over their shoulders at each other. Outstanding name and logo, and then they didn't adopt that as the team name, and it made me so sad. So I'm gonna mail you some money, Ben. You can buy me a primaries T-shirt.
I'll keep an eye out. You don't have to mail me money. We can have an IOU if I find one. But yeah, the New Hampshire primaries, it sounds like a brilliant idea, but it did not stick. The market rebelled against it, and then they said, well, hey, how about we go with an invasive, carnivorous, pet-killing feline, and then they went with Fisher Cats because...
And people were like, yeah, let's do that. That sounds great.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, we don't like politics. We love vicious cats that kill our house pets.
He is Benjamin Hill. He's on the road. You can follow him at Ben's Biz on Twitter. The blog is bensbiz.mlblogs.com. And Ben, drive safely, and we'll wrap up the New England trip next week. We'll do the postmortem and cut through all the fun from the next couple of stops on this trip.
Yeah, sounds good. There's always stuff to talk about, but I'm looking forward to coming home.
So are we, Ben. I won't be here, but we are too. Drive
yes,
safe.
I'm sure. Thank you.
We've only got a handful of days left of Ben driving around the country safely, and that's good because then we'll know where he is and we'll know that he's fine. When he's out on the road, we always worry about Ben.
Yeah,
it'll be good.
He's driving through Massachusetts several times, and being a Massachusetts driver, I'm personally worried. So I know we have a certain reputation. I'm aware of it. But he's driving through Eastern Mass, which is even worse. I'm a Western Mass guy.
Okay.
So I worry for him even more. But once he's back safely home and we're doing this podcast in person again next week, I'll feel much better.
Get back safely, Ben.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to transition to, like I said, kind of the postseason's postseason. Playoffs start in minor league baseball here coming up over the next week. But when that's all wrapped up, in October, the best players, some of the best prospects in minor league baseball, will all take the field in the 2015 Arizona Fall League. Rosters were announced for the AFL today. Now, if you're not familiar with the Arizona Fall League, which you probably are if you're listening to this podcast, but basically, showcase circuit, all played at spring training facilities in Arizona that host each of these 6 teams in the AFL, and each of those teams have 5 major league partners. Sort of like parent clubs, they each send 5 prospects down, comprise the rosters, and that's where these teams are constructed from. And that brings in a really interesting mix of talent. Teams shift sometimes. There's a different combination for teams from year to year of who is going with what team, and so prospects really get to know each other in that, and that's really cool. But it more than that provides some of the deepest rosters talent-wise that you'll see at any level in baseball the entire season. And Sam, what are some of the guys who stuck out to you from the named rosters today as we're recording this on Tuesday, headed toward the 2015 AFL?
Yeah, so there are 9 guys who are on MLB.com's top 100 list who are going to be in the AFL this year. I'll just kind of run through them quick. I'll hit on a couple of them later, but J.P. Crawford, with the Phillies, Alex Reyes with the Cardinals, Austin Meadows with the Pirates, Bradley Zimmer with the Indians, Brett Phillips with the Brewers, Clint Frazier with the Indians, Lewis Brinson with the Rangers, Daniel Robertson with the Rays, and, of course, A.J. Reed with the Astros. One that's obviously going to stand out for me is J.P. Crawford. We like to call the Arizona Fall League the finishing school for prospects. This is kind of a place where they get to, like you said, go up against top talent, see how they fare. Organizations get to see how they fare against those top talents. It's kind of a mix, usually of AA, AAA. That's what we like to think of the talent level. Obviously, some guys come in from levels below that. But for Crawford, this is kind of a sign that the Phillies are looking to him to potentially take over the shortstop job at some point next year. He's been at Clearwater and spent most of the year at Reading this year, missed some time to begin the season. So this is a good way for him to get some at-bats, get back on a kind of normal schedule, at least games-wise for him. But it is a chance to face that top-tier pitching, and go up against some of the more lively arms, which kind of brings me to Alex Reyes. I know when Jake was on the podcast, he liked to talk a lot about Alex Reyes.
He's a big Alex Reyes guy.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Jake.
Rest in peace, Jake. There's our one mention. I knew we could shoehorn it in here somehow. With Alex Reyes, he's that guy. A lot of AFL guys don't throw more than 4 or 5 innings at a time, so we'll be able to see him crank it up a little bit. We know he can hit triple digits. What is it going to be like when he's going up against the Bradley Zimmers, the Lewis Brinsons, the AJ Reeds of the world, of the prospect world anyway. So I'll be interested to see how he kind of handles his stuff there, handles the hitters. And then AJ Reed, I mean, he's maybe we'll save this for the AFL preview podcast, but he's my yearly pick for MVP because, that's a spot where power plays pretty well if you can make contact like he does. And, we expect him to climb even higher in the top 100 rankings when those get updated in this offseason, given the year he's had. He's leading the minors right now in homers. So now he gets to show it off at another level, and fully expect him to thrive there as well.
I got a couple guys who I'm going to be excited to follow, and guys who have really pushed their developmental stages, I think, faster than a lot of people saw from them. But you mentioned, and he leads the list for me, Bradley Zimmer in the Cleveland Indians organization, taken in the first round last year out of San Francisco, and was a guy who I think pretty much everybody expected he'd spend this year at high A, get himself figured out with Lynchburg in the Carolina League, and then you kind of see what you have from him at Double-A and beyond coming up in 2016. But Zimmer forces his way by the All-Star break to Double-A, and so far his numbers with the Akron Rubber Ducks have been very, very good. And overall this season, a 287 average and an 852 OPS. I mean, jumping up to Double-A, he's played 42 games there, a 250 average, a 774 OPS for a kid who's 22, who not a whole lot of people, I think, expected to see considerable time at Double-A this year. But Zimmer has proven that he's a pretty polished guy. I mean, coming out of school, he was already light years ahead, I think, of where a lot of organizations expected him to be. He's definitely atop that list for me. And Brett Phillips, I can't let a possible Brett Phillips mention go without talking about Brett Phillips. But he's another one who I think nobody really, we've talked a handful of times about how going into 2014, he was off everybody's radar.
Right.
And then just really established himself as a prospect. He'll be a younger guy. But again, going against very, very good competition has proven to be something that he handles well. Made it to Double-A this year, has been very successful at Double-A, and just a really fun guy to watch. He has that type of game that it's very cool to see how it transitions in an environment where he is around a lot of really, really talented prospects. And those are just some of the position player guys. Pitching-wise, you mentioned Reyes, obviously. I'm interested to see what Sean Manaea is going to do. Manaea had such a weird year, and it was kind of a reach, in the draft when the Royals took him. Obviously, there was reasons why they drafted him where they did, and the way that they maneuvered that first round when Manaea was taken. But what we've seen from him so far this year has been success kind of in spurts, because he didn't get his season started until later, had the nagging, I think it was an oblique issue coming out of spring training, didn't get started until later in the year, then he gets traded, now he's a member of the Oakland Athletics organization. But I think this is an opportunity for Manaea to really showcase the reason why he was a first-round talent. I mean, before he had some injury issues in college, it was a guy who a lot of people looked at as possibly being the top pitching talent coming into the draft, and he, to me, signals the type of guy who can really benefit from a showing like the AFL. Big body guy, if he can stay healthy, if he can put everything together, we know how talented he can be. We just haven't seen it over an extremely extended period of time. Very good last year for Wilmington in the Royal system. This year he's bounced around so much. Once he gets settled into a role like he'll have in the AFL, I think he'll be a lot of fun to watch too.
Yeah, I know at the beginning of the year, if he was healthy, that was the big question.
Right,
but
right.
I think it was either Jim Callis or Jonathan Mayo. I can't remember which one. I think it might have been Callis, but apologies to Mayo if it was him. But had him as their pick to lead the minors in strikeouts. I mean, he didn't have the innings for that to happen, but now he's going to be able to get that chance in the AFL, and now maybe we'll see him lead the AFL in strikeouts. He certainly has that type of stuff. And just to kind of touch on something you said before about how these rosters are kind of all thrown together, and guys from different organizations who probably will never play again together get a chance to. One outfield I'm kind of excited for, you mentioned Bradley Zimmer. He'll be teamed up again with Clint Frazier. Those two guys work together in Lynchburg. I remember I did a tool shed on Zimmer, and the manager said, Zimmer can play center field, Frazier can play center field. We have to switch off because they both have to get their chances now. Now it's the Scottsdale lineup that gets to have that same problem. And if anybody in Scottsdale is listening, anybody involved in that team is listening, if you can make your opening day outfield Bradley Zimmer, Clint Frazier, and Adam Brett Walker the second, that I will be a very happy person. That is an outfield I want to see a couple times. I know there's obviously other outfielders there who have to get some playing time, but that would be a very exciting, at least from offensive and a little bit defensively too, exciting outfield.
Some of the best names in minor league baseball too. People who are not yet familiar with the Arizona Fall League, the team names: the Glendale Desert Dogs, the Peoria Javelinas. They're now the Javelinas for those of you who do not know. Salt River Rafters. The Rafters have my favorite hat in the league, by the way. The Surprise Saguaros, not the Saguaros, and the Scottsdale Scorpions. Those are the 6 teams. So be on the lookout for where your team is sending their prospects. And if you happen to find yourself in the Phoenix metropolitan area, the Arizona Fall League did already release its schedule a couple weeks ago. Mid-October is when the season starts. October 13th is opening day. The league's championship game is November 21st. There will also be the Fall Stars game, which will take place at Surprise Stadium on November 7th. And I have not been down to the AFL. I'm hoping to make it there this year. From what I've heard from people who have gone down there, really cool atmosphere because it's like the people who are into the prospects at spring training, but without the casual fans who just go for the major league aspects of spring training. So you get to be around those fans who are really, really into the AFL, the prospect experience, and that seems like a lot of fun.
It kind of sounds like a film festival.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, you get people who get really excited about what's going on. It's not so big outside that world, but someday it will be. This is where we start to hear about all the things that are coming down the pipe.
That is a very good way to put it.
I literally
this
just
is why we have
that,
Sam on the show.
Yeah,
Sam is,
my metaphors.
He's the smart guy. He's got the
similes.
good takes, and also it's just a ton of fun being around those ballparks, the atmosphere that they create at whether it's the ballpark construction or the cacti that they put in random little corners or the historical presentations of how this team has been in this spot for spring training for 40 years, whatever it is. Arizona's a really, really fun place to go in the spring, and I would imagine it's the same in the AFL, and so I'm hoping to check it out this year. But if you find yourself in that area, check out the AFL site at MLB.com, and you can get tickets and you can get yourself all set up for the 2015 Arizona Fall League. And that's not it, by the way, for off-season leagues. Dominican Winter League will get going. The Venezuelan Winter League will get going shortly after the end of the Major League and Minor League seasons. The Australian Baseball League will do the same. So there are other destinations. If you're following a guy and he's not heading to the AFL, that doesn't mean that his season is over if he's going to get off-season work. A lot of prospects don't do that. But for the guys who continue to play, they're far-flung. I mean, baseball never stops,
right?
Which is a very cool thing in the offseason.
And we talk to a lot of these guys who they say, whether it's the ABL or the Venezuelan League, the Dominican League, Puerto Rican League, any of that extra time really does help them. They get to work on their swing and get at it year-round. Sometimes taking time off can kind of put you into some bad habits. And so getting that chance in warm weather, mind you, they're not doing that up here. It can do a lot of good for some of these guys who need bounce back years and need to work on several things.
So be sure to follow all of that all off-season long at MILB.com. It's insane to me that we're already talking off-season stories.
Yeah.
But
when you said October, it just hit me that's only a month away.
It's a month away!
Yeah.
How did that happen?
It's a month and a half.
Insanity. Major League Baseball playoffs will be starting, obviously, in the month of October, but the minor league baseball playoffs will start next week, and we've already talked a little bit about what the postseason picture looks like, but we have a lot of that content up on MILB.com right now, writing our clinching stories. We'll have, obviously our playoff landing pages for if your team is headed to the postseason. Format, schedule, all that stuff you can find there as well. And minor league playoffs are fun because that's when the players, I think, sort of realize, man, let's just go win this thing. For us, for so long in season, it's like, all right, when does the grind end? At what point are we going to get done? But you can tell now when you talk to guys who know they're headed to the playoffs, everybody starts getting geared in for that. All right, no more bus rides.
Right.
We'll have this 1 or 2 series in the playoffs. Let's go win this thing. And that's a fun time of year.
And you're playing for something.
Right,
too.
exactly.
Like, whether you want to joke about a AA ring or not, it's a ring. It's something you get to keep for you for the rest of your life. And if you're going to be playing in the playoffs, playoffs, you might as well play to win and try to aim for something. And that goes for all levels. I talked yesterday to the GCL Red Sox manager who won their first game of the GCL Championship Series, and he said you have to realize these guys have been down here for months, playing through the heat, playing through the rain at times, playing through all this stuff, going on the bus rides. This is what they're excited for. They won on a walk-off in Game 1, and he said you don't have a pulse if you don't get excited for this. So it goes from AAA all the way down to the lowest complex level leagues.
Those are some of the funnest guys to talk to, too, are the complex level guys and the short season and rookie ball managers, because they inherit rosters right out of the draft in most cases. I mean, they'll get kids. If you have a 25-man roster, probably 15 to 20 of those guys came out of the draft. There maybe are some younger Latin players who have come over from wherever they've been playing, if they've been playing in Dominican Summer League or Venezuelan Summer League. But those guys, it's like a father-family relationship, because they inherit this roster in June, mold them into something, and then by August they're playing for making a spot in the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. And those are some of the most fun guys to talk to. I talked to Pat Borders, who's the manager of the Class A short season Williamsport Crosscutters. They clinched their division yesterday in the NYPL. And just to hear, I said, what'd you say to your team? And he said, I didn't say anything. I let them have their time. I let them celebrate. And I said, I'll see you tomorrow a little bit later than normal. And to hear the pride in managers' voices when they talk about these guys they've been around all season long and all that stuff, that's a really cool thing for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we get to talk to them during the playoffs now instead of just clinching. They're going to be advancing towards things, and that's the time when it counts. So that'll be the exciting time for us.
And the Arizona Fall League will have that same excitement in that game. You can catch on MLB Network Championship game, which will be coming up on November 21st. You can follow that season as it begins coming up next month, 6 weeks away from Arizona Fall League opening day. Somehow that has already happened.
Mark your calendar.
Mark your calendars now. We're going to wrap up the 23rd edition of the Minor League Baseball, the show before the show podcast, coming up next. You can rate, review, and subscribe to the show before the show on iTunes. Send us your feedback there. Give us a little 5-star rating. I'm not even going to suggest. Just rate us 5 stars.
Give us all the stars.
Don't give us what you think we're worth. Just give us 5 stars.
Yeah, we would have our mother spam that thing. But I don't want to. I've already taught my mom too many technological things.
Trying to teach my mom, walk my mom through rating something on iTunes would be like splitting the atom.
Yeah, so if you guys could do that for us.
Yeah, just do it for us. So we don't have to explain it to our
moms. Put a 5-star review and write whatever you want in the comments. Nice things are always good in the comments.
Those are the preferred methods of rating. But you can do that. Follow the show and follow Minor League Baseball on Twitter. We are at MILB. Sam is at Sam Dykstra at Sam Dykstra MILB, and I am at Tyler Mon. And you can contact the show as well, podcast at MILB.com, and send us your questions, thoughts, comments, concerns. We started getting we got a Prince that needed a little bit of cash, and then in exchange we were going to get a ton of money from him. Did you see that email?
I didn't.
Prince himself emailed us.
Oh, man.
And we could have gotten his entire fortune had we only loaned him a little bit of money, Sam.
Did I have to give him my Social Security number?
I think so.
Oh, well,
I think it's just for the wire transfer.
I do draw the line, though, at my Social Security number. If he wants, bank statements or anything like that, I will do that exchange of money.
So that's fine.
He crossed the line with my Social Security.
At least we know that we're big in the Prince inheritance community.
Right.
They're
and
all
if any other
in.
princes want to send us money.
If you have any other money.
Yeah, without us having to give personal information. We're all for it.
And give us a rating on iTunes.
And write us on iTunes.
Exactly.
Do the whole shebang.
We got it all covered. Yeah. Got it all covered. But if you do have an actual question for us, you can email to podcast@milb.com. Keep watching the playoff races. They'll be all week on MILB TV. Playoffs as well. We'll have all that coverage. And the clinch stories are fast and furious these days. Those are a ton of fun for us to write, and they're all up on the site now as well. And rosters expanding, AFL rosters out. You can go check those out on MLB.com, and we'll break all that stuff down as that season gets rolling along coming up next month. So the postseason is next on tap, and we will continue discussing that next week when we hit the quarter-century mark on the show before the show. And until then, Sam, I'll be a lot further away.
I know. We have to
be so sad.
I wish we had a New York sign-off. I think we have to bring in Sinatra now to sign you off of your New York podcast.
It was a good episode because we'll close it with
Sinatra.
That means we got a winning episode.
Yeah, we did it our way. There it is.
We'll talk to you guys next week.